Okay, so just a quick note before we start this video. So this particular video is about 20 minutes long or so, and we'll go over the default levels displayed on the SPX Daily Key Levels V2.0 indicator, as well as how you go about changing the chart display to your preference at the beginning of a trading session, and what we recommend that you do at the beginning of a trading session with your chart display. But also in the video description, you will see a link to another video. So after watching this video, you may also want to watch this other video, which is the full-length features and setup video for the indicator, which also discusses all the different inputs in the user control panel. So you'll see that link right here if you have an interest in also seeing that video, which that video is about an hour and 20 minutes long. All right. Okay, when you first have your levels in the first part of the session, such as this when I'm doing the replay here, just to show you the first part of the session, if you have all 6 levels checked, which that is the default. So basically, in the user control panel, you can check and uncheck all the things you want to have shown or not shown, but this, for example, is the default. So reset settings to default. This is the default. So the point I'm trying to make is that by default, even though this has where you can have up to 10 levels above and 10 levels below, as far as the main R and S levels, above and below the bull bear KPL. The default settings are that R1 through R6 and S1 through S6 are displayed. So as you can see here, it's kind of squunched up, here in this part, R2 through S2, with all the different ones here. So what you want to do is you simply want to make sure that, see, if I have auto the screen, fits data to screen, it even makes it smaller. So what you want to do is you want to widen it out if you're going to display all 6 levels to where, say, you're at R3 through S3, or even to begin with R2 through S2, and also including the YDH and the YDL level. So by having this kind of zeroing in on the levels that are going to be most prevalent during the first part of the session, which is going to be, say in the first 15 to 30 minutes, it's going to be R2 through S2, or your YDH to the YDL. So you want to do that. You don't want to have it down like this, trying to trade it like this. You want to widen it out to at least R3 through S3, or even R2 through S2. So keep in mind that these levels here, so these are the levels that are shown by default. So you have the bull bear key level, the main R levels R1 through R6, and the main levels S1 through S6. You also have the YDH, YDC, and YDL, and the PMH and the PML. You also have the first midpoint above the bull bear KPL, the first midpoint below the bull bear KPL, the first QL, which is the quarter level above the bull bear KPL, and the first QL below the BBKPL. You can go into your user control panel, and as an example, you could just simply turn off 4, 5, and 6 as one thing, and then you're just going to have the 3 levels. Another thing you can do is if you want to see the midpoint levels, let's say between R1, R2, and R3, and S1, S2, and S3, then you simply go down to the midpoint. So midpoint line settings, as you can see, they're enabled, and the midpoint line labels are enabled. So we turn on mid R1, R2, mid R2, R3, and we go down and turn on mid S1, S2, and mid S2, S3. Now if we keep going, because price action takes us above R3 or below S3, then you could turn on the other levels as well, and the other midpoint levels. Also, there are quarter levels above and below each main level. Each main level meaning the bull bear key price level is a main level, so you can see they are turned on. The main levels are R1 through R6 and S1 through S6, or if we're in an extreme volatility day, it could be R1 through R10 and S1 through S10. So the quarter levels, and a lot of this is still in the setup and features videos. I'm just making this video for people just to narrow in on these particular points. So as you can see here, enable quarter lines, and we have enable QL line above BBKPL. That's checked. And then enable QL line below BBKPL. So those are the two that are checked by default. If you find yourself wanting to, and remember that the QL levels above and below are used for stop losses. So those are used for tight stop losses. If you don't like using the tight stop losses, because remember those are more prone to getting stopped out than the standard stop losses, then there's really no reason to turn them on. So for example, if you don't even want to use the tight stop losses at all, then you can just simply go in here and turn them off. You can still keep this checked in case for some reason you do want to check on one of them. Then this is kind of a global setting that says, okay, they're enabled as long as you check one of them or more of them. Okay, so if you just want to use the standard stop losses, the standard stop losses are the midpoint levels. So say for example you're taking a trade, you were taking a bearish trade off of R2, then your standard stop loss is the first midpoint above, mid R2, R3. If you had the quarter levels turned on, that would be your tight stop loss. So you would turn on the QL above R2 if for some reason you wanted to see that as well, or you're considering a tight stop loss. In reverse, if you were considering taking a bullish trade off of R2, looking for trade to continue more above R2, then your standard stop loss is the first midpoint below. The same way if you took a trade here off of R1, a bullish trade, your standard stop loss is the first midpoint level below R1. If you were taking a bearish trade off of R1, then the standard stop loss is the first midpoint above. And if for some reason you wanted to have a tight stop loss on a bearish trade R1 looking to go below, then you would simply turn on the QL above R1. And we'll just show you that as an example. QL above R1. So the QL lines all go in sequence from R1 to R10, starting with the BBKPL. And then the BBKPL again here for line below, and then the S levels. So basically it follows this and above, and then this and below. Another thing I want to point out is that the offset of the line labels. So here under display settings, you'll see it's better just to keep these on both main line extensions, midpoint line extensions, and quarter line extensions. Both just means they're extended in both directions. It's better to keep them on both, in my opinion. The only time you'd want to have them on, say, something else would be right only if, for example, you were going to look at the historical bull and bear in R and S levels over previous sessions. And we have a video for that. That's also gone over in the full features and setup video. I'm not going to go into that now. Okay, so as you can see here, the default main line label offset is 25. Same thing for the midpoint line labels and the quarter line labels. That's why they all line up one after the other. So I'll turn on the quarter lines again. We'll just go ahead and reset these to the default. So as you can see, all of those line up. These other labels, these are the YDH, YDC, YDL, and then you have the pre-market high and pre-market low. They have their own set of line label offsets. So for example, you go to the pre-market values, which is pre-market high, pre-market low lines. They're set to 10. Okay, we go back to the other ones, they're set to 25. What this actually means is this is 25 to the right of the current price action. So basically the middle of these is 25 to the right. Now this looks, because this is kind of a long line and it is on the enlarged size, so that's why it looks closer. Whereas these, the PMH, PML, YDH, YDL, and YDC are all set to 10. So you see the pre-market high, pre-market low, they're set to 10 as far as the line label offset. So that means they're 10 away. The middle of the text is 10 away, whereas the middle of this text is 25 away. So here's the previous daily lines. That means YDH. Previous day also stands for yesterday. The reason it's just easier, since these are PML and PMH, we decided to make these YDH, YDC, and YDC, even though what they really represent are the previous day. So, which is the same thing. It's just, the previous day, previous sessions, RTH session high, RTH session close, and RTH session low. So they're set to 10 as well, because you want to keep them all in the line as well. So you can create more separation on these if you want. One idea is that you can simply move you can leave these at 10, the pre-market high and the pre-market low, and the YDC, YDH, and YDL at 10, and simply move these more over to the right. And how you move them more over to the right is you make this a larger number. If you made it a smaller number, they'd move closer in. If you made it a negative number, they'd move over to the left. So as an example, if I change all these to, say, 37, then these will move over to the right 12 more. So as you can see, now we have more separation. So, we set the default that way. You could just change it to whatever you like. We also set the default so that the main line labels are large. You could just certainly change them to normal if you want. That'll change the look a little bit. See, now they're just normal sized. The midpoint lines are set to normal as far as the line labels, so you can see those are the same, and the quarter levels will set to small. You can make them whatever you want. You can make the quarter levels tiny if you wanted to. That's how they would look on tiny. A little hard to see. The point is you can independently control these. And obviously you can also independently control the main line label offset, midpoint line label offset, quarter line label offset, as well as the offset for the pre-market and the previous day values. I would recommend that you keep them all the same, as far as keep all the YDH, YDC, and YDLs the same, whatever you're going to change them to, so they're all line up. And then keep all these the same as far as the offset, whatever you're going to set it to, so they all line up as well. Also, if you don't want these tables on your chart, they're simply there for reference, because sometimes you may have one of these levels that is so close to another level it's kind of hard to discern, and so this kind of helps you with the number. Or say that for some reason these overlap, then you can have these. Then you have this up here, so if you're just focused in on R2 through S2, this can give you sort of a guide as to where the other ones are without having to see them. Now, if you don't like either one of these on your chart, all you do is you go in here and you go down to the bottom, and this is the CBOE SPX chart. So see where it says CBOE SPX chart, you just uncheck that and it's no longer there. If you like it there but you don't like the size or the position, you can change the position here. You can also change the size of the table there. Same thing with this other table. This table is just one table that has all the PMH, PML, YDH, YDL, and YDC values. It's at the very bottom of the user control panel. Prior prices level table. What that actually means is that, and we'll probably change what this wording is, but that's just the way our coder did it. But it's just the PMH, PML, so it's the pre-market values and yesterday's RTH values table. And you can control the position of that table and also the size of the table. For example, you could make it smaller. Or you just go back to normal. Or you can just, and you can also change where it's located, like say here, bottom center. As an example. Or you can just uncheck it and then it's no longer on the chart. So if you don't feel that either one of those tables are really necessary, then you can uncheck them in a chart. This other table here, which you may have noticed, this is for when you're on the other symbol, the Forex CFD. So unless you happen to be trading a Forex CFD, like you're on FTMO or you're on some Forex trading challenge or something, the only reason to ever have your chart on the ACAP SPX 500 symbol, which by the way is this, right now we're on SPX CBOE. The SPX 500 symbol is the 8 cap, SPX 500 8 cap. So we'll just change it to that real quick. So if you're on that and you had the CBOE one displayed as well, the reason for having your chart on this is if at not, unless you're trading a Forex CFD, like I said, on FTMO or one of these Forex brokers, and you're not trading SPX index options, you're trading the Forex CFD version of SPX 500. That would be a reason to have it on SPX 500 instead of SPX CBOE. The other reason is if you're trading SPX CBOE, these levels show up on the SPX 500 chart at 9 a.m. So you can get a 30-minute jump on knowing what the levels will be, because CBOE SPX doesn't open up until 9:30 a.m. Whereas this Forex CFD trades throughout the night and in the morning. So because of the way TradingView works, even though the indicator already knows at 9 a.m. what the CBOE SPX levels are, it cannot display them on the CBOE SPX chart until 9:30, because up until 9:30 the CBOE SPX market is closed. And the way TradingView and their Pine script coding works is that even if your indicator knows what to plot, it will not plot it unless the market for that symbol is open. So this is a way that you can put it on this symbol, and we have this second chart here which will give you the levels that will be the 9:30 levels for CBOE SPX. This chart here is just showing the same levels for SPX 500, the Forex CFD we're on, which that's what these levels are, and that's what this corresponding table is pointing to here. This extra table here just gives you the ability to get the CBOE SPX values for today's session 30 minutes before the 9:30 open. And then when 9:30 opens for CBOE SPX, then those levels will show up on your chart, and it'll be the same table. All right, thank you.